the Indian Army chief has said that between 6 and 10 Pakistani Army soldiers have been killed after the Indian Army launched major artillery attacks across the line of control, attacking not just 3 terror training camps which have been destroyed, but also Pakistani artillery gun placements. The escalation by the Indian Army comes after overnight shelling by the Pakistan Army, in which 2 Indian Jawans were killed in action. The artillery attacks by the Indian Army in the Tangdar sector of Kashmir targeted at least 3 terror launch pads in Athmukam, Kundal Shahi and Jura, just across the line of control in the Tangdar area. These areas lie less than 7 kilometers from the line of control, though India's artillery guns which did attack would be positioned further inland. According to senior Indian Army sources, the attacks that took place cannot be equated with the surgical strike or the Balakot air attack, but is one step lower in the escalation matrix. By hitting Pak gun positions, artillery positions, a clear message was sent that their concealed positions are under observation and will be targeted if there is support to terror. Earlier, 2 Indian Jawans were killed in the line of duty in the Tangdar sector. The Indian Army was responding to this. But the essential point made by the Army is that Pakistan provokes ceasefire violations along the line of control to give cover for terrorists looking to infiltrate into India. That will never be accepted.
We had picked up some definitive information that some of the terror camps north of the Pir Panjal are active. The terrorists have arrived in these camps and that they are likely to infiltrate. Last evening an attempt was made in Tandhar in which we did suffer 2 of our soldiers getting killed. 1 civilian also died. And all this was to ensure that they can push in the terrorists. Pakistani army posts who also bear the brunt of our retaliatory action. And as of now, the information that we have is that 6 to 10 Pakistani soldiers have been killed.
Well, joining us now to look at the significance of this particular escalation, General Syed Atta Hasain, the former General Officer Commanding of 15 Corps. 15 Corps, very much that army formation under which a lot of the operations which we saw today took place. General, your first thoughts on this. Why do you believe, or do you believe, that what we have seen in this artillery strike is beyond what we have seen in the last several weeks? What makes it different?
See, I won't say it's completely different, Vishnu, because about a month and a half ago also, we know that there was a very severe fire assault which was carried out by the Indian Army's artillery guns in the very same sector, but not exactly at Athmukam and Kundal Shahi, but at places like Nauseri, where there's a very large project a very large hydel project, and in the vicinity a very large terrorist camp also exists. But I would relate this particular issue at the moment, the current incident, to actually the coming onset of winter, number 1. And number 2, the successful infiltration which Pakistan has been able to carry out in some other areas like the Gurez sector, and possibly to some extent also through the Tangdar sector. Now, winter is the time, the onset of winter, they want to make sure that the strength inside the valley is sufficient to be able to carry out terrorist attacks, carry out some big actions in the hinterland. Therefore, this is the time when they will use their artillery shelling, the type which has been described last night, in which 2 of our soldiers have got martyred. They will use the cover of that to try and induct as many terrorists as possible. Now, this is happening in Kashmir Valley after a fairly long time as a pattern. Last year, it was all south of the Pir Panjal.
Right.
This year, we are seeing in sync together both shelling, firing, and infiltration. Now, this is something strange. It's happened after a fairly long time. We used to earlier always witness infiltration alongside shelling. Then it all changed. The pattern changed. We found infiltration taking place in the north of the Pir Panjal and most of the shelling taking place in the south of the Pir Panjal. To that extent, this is definitely different.
So, General, tell me this. If a statement has been made, the Army's official statement, besides the destruction of these terror training camps, also said that we have targeted Pakistani gun emplacements. And my source is telling me that that's to send us a strong signal that, look, we've got you under observation. But the first part, which is the on-record statement by the army, where they are saying that we have also targeted your gun emplacements. I've never heard of that language in the recent past. It's obviously to send a signal at a higher level. You know, it's just not just a terrorist issue. It's the Pakistan Army direct.
You're absolutely right, Vishnu. In the past, pre-2003, this was a very common phenomenon, that every time there were duels on the line of control, we invariably targeted Pakistani gun positions as part of our counter bombardment policy. Thereafter, the sporadic incidents which took place in terms of ceasefire violations, this particular issue was not focused upon to such an extent. Obviously, the volume of fire has gone up, and the seriousness of the whole issue has gone up far more. And that is why what is called the counter bombardment, a CB policy as it's called, is now in place. And the reason for it is primarily that the very same guns of the Pakistan Army which shell our positions and which helps the Pakistani terrorists to try and infiltrate, they must be silenced. And psychologically, as you very correctly assess, psychologically the message must be clear that in the entire Tangdhar belt, the entire area of the Neelam Valley, we have got Pakistan Army and their positions under our surveillance and therefore under our control.
So, one final question to you, General. Athmukam, Kundal Shahi and Jura across the line of control, as I understand it, all in the Tangdhar sector. Can you tell us about these areas? I mean, what are they? Are they villages? Are they, typical of that area? Villages with terror trading camps? What are these areas, sir?
Vishnu, actually my information tells me that the spread of this fire which has taken place today has started from Lipa and it goes almost up to Keren. Now in the middle, in Lipa, you have a very large terrorist training camp or a launch pad. Then from Tangdhar, as you go northwards up to Keren, you come across these locations, Jura, Athmukam, Kundal Shahi, all three of them. These are small villages, not very large villages, absolutely on the banks of the Neelam River, and a little displaced from them are these camps. Camps means actually in this case a couple of houses. It's not as if it's a huge military facility. It can house about between 10 to 30 terrorists easily. That is the kind of facility which has been targeted in this particular case. This whole area is under the direct observation and domination of the Indian Army, which traditionally has always dominated the Neelam Valley. I am surprised the Pakistan Army is actually trying to do something in the Neelam Valley because they know that the Indian Army will always have this area under domination and control.
All right, General, thanks so much for speaking to us, putting that into perspective one way or the other, with the Army Chief saying that up to 10 Pak soldiers have been killed. That's a very strong message, strong signal, and obviously a very big offensive by the Indian Army. Thanks, General, very much.